Welcome to Sick Faces, a project that conceptualizes chronic illnesses into makeup looks. And if you didn't know, dramatic drum roll, we in a pandemic.
I know that COVID-19 is not a chronic illness. However, we thought since we've been inundated with it for like a year now, probably going on to 2 years, we thought it necessary that Sick Faces do at least one episode where we speak about the illness.
So today we have Brunel, a nurse that has recovered from COVID-19, and she highlights her experience with COVID-19, and we create a really, really sick COVID-19 look.
So please stay tuned, comment, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and enjoy the interview.
The virus was traced back to this now closed seafood and meat market, but tests have so far failed to isolate a source.
As of this morning, there have been 571 cases confirmed by the Chinese government, and 17 people are reported to have died of this new strain of respiratory illness.
We're working very closely with China and other countries, and we think it's going to have a very good ending for us, so that I can assure you.
At the conference today, they gave the virus a name, COVID-19, coronavirus disease.
This is the worst public health crisis for a generation.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel.
Fellow South Africans, I'm addressing you this evening on a matter of great national importance. The world is facing a medical emergency far graver than what we have experienced in over a century. The World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus outbreak as a global pandemic.
We have Brunel here. Like I said, she's a nurse and she is going to be telling us about her experience with COVID. Brunel, say hi. So today we're talking about your experience with COVID, but before we even get to that, we're still in the pandemic. And we've been inundated with COVID information, like
Yes.
we've been eating, breathing, sleeping. How's it been for you as a nurse? Because obviously you are, I guess, especially in the middle of COVID, we were saying nurses and healthcare workers are like ground zero,
Yeah.
warfare.
So, I guess lucky for me, when COVID happened, because I'm still studying, the students in the hospital were told to stay at home. So I was at home for a certain period, and then I had to be called back to work. So it so happened that I worked in the trauma department with COVID patients, and I was very scared. And I thought to myself, why am I suddenly scared? I'm doing this almost every day. It's just a COVID patient. So it was okay. It was scary. I was very paranoid, but it wasn't that bad as everybody told it would be. It was okay.
Okay, so you're managing.
Yeah.
So obviously, being a nurse, there's like strict policies about all the like wearing and the sanitizing.
PPEs.
Yes, there you go, PPEs. Correct terminology. So then, when it came to a lot of healthcare workers getting COVID, and we're gonna get into like you, how secure did you feel about the PPEs? Like, how did you feel like, okay, nothing's gonna happen, or was like, what was the feeling around that? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, okay, so it was, I had a good sense of it because we used to go in with our uniform, and there was different stations where we would go on and put the clothes from the hospital. So we had scrubs that we would discard at the end of the day. So we would go into the hospital with our uniform, and then it's called a donning station. So we go in and we put the hospital scrubs, and then we leave our clothes one side. So we use that for the day, the 12 hours. And then when we're going home, it's called a doffing station. We take the clothes and discard it and put back our uniform. So we're not taking
Anything home.
Yeah. So we're not taking it home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with all that admin, like taking things taking things on, how then what led to you having to be tested for COVID? Like, what was that experience?
Okay, so it so happened December, my mom tested positive.
Okay.
And I was away with my friends in Joburg. And I was gonna come home on that Monday, and then on the Saturday she told me no, she's been in contact with a COVID patient, and where she works, most of the people tested positive. So she went for the test. And she was complaining of coughing and vomiting, but she didn't think it was gonna be COVID. So when she came, she actually went for the test, and then she told me, if it's positive, I need to come home. So I was stressing because it was only my dad and her at home, and I was so far away. So she told me to come home, and the next day we drove down, and it so happened she told me no, I must stay with my friend because she didn't want me to be in contact with her because she was worried for me. So I stayed with my friend Tahila, and it so happened, I think it was at the end of December, I stayed with them, and then it was the beginning of Jan that they tested positive, and I was in contact with them. So that's how I tested positive.
Okay, so it wasn't actually necessarily at a hospital?
No, it wasn't. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that PPE works.
Yes,
The PPE works.
It does, it definitely does.
Okay.
If you're using it correctly.
So how did that feel, that drive towards the test, like before you know it?
So when we had the drive through that we had to go and get tested. So on our way, I was very scared. I was very paranoid, and I didn't think. I knew I was gonna test positive.
So you knew it?
Because I had symptoms, and I knew I was in contact with them. But I was just hoping to not test positive.
So what was the fear from? If you already knew it,
Okay,
people fear the result.
So I was getting scared of knowing what was being told to us, what families were telling us, people were dying, and how people were coping, and seeing it firsthand in the hospital. I just didn't want to be in that situation. And the thought of my family experiencing this, because obviously if I'm in the situation, my family's going to feel it. So I think that scared me the most. Really, it did. And also death.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get your positive result, which you already felt that you already knew.
Yeah.
Did you have a reaction to that, or because you kind of had knowledge that this was going to happen already?
So I knew I was going to test positive, and then the results just confirmed it, and I was like, oh crap, I'm COVID positive. Yeah, it wasn't a good thing.
Hectic. Okay, but so now there's so much information about like the symptoms of COVID. So everybody knows, right? We all, like I said, we're inundated with the information, like coughing. They said if you have coughing symptoms, what's the other? Oh my gosh, with all this inundation, I've already forgotten. But there's so many symptoms. So how did it manifest in you? How did the symptoms?
Okay, so it started off with flu-like symptoms.
Okay.
I had mild body aches and a slight cough.
So like a fever kind of.
I didn't have fever.
No
I didn't
fever.
experience a fever throughout the COVID. People present with different types of symptoms, and it so happened that I didn't have a fever, which you could say is a good thing. So it was the mild body pains, coughing, and then like in the middle of COVID, you could say in that day 6, day 5, I was getting very paranoid, which led me to have shortness of breath. I was very, very paranoid. I had this small oxygen meter, and I used to check my oxygen like almost every 5 minutes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was very scared. And then I was coughing, and then I had this thick, clumpy phlegm. And I remember there was one point where I checked my SATs, which is saturation, oxygen levels.
Nurse speech.
And then it was 89. So the correct level needs to be 95 and above. So it was 89, and I was getting really scared. And then I was trying to vomit, and so I could feel like I needed to vomit. So I wanted to force myself to vomit. So I put my fingers down my throat, and I'm trying to vomit, and next minute I can't breathe. So I stopped it, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. And I didn't tell my mom anything, because I didn't want her to get scared. Because she was like, no, you need to come home. And I was like, no, I'll be fine, don't worry about me.
So so where are you at now? You're
I was
friend's
staying,
place
yes,
still?
I was staying with
Okay.
them, because they all tested positive.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was with them. And my mom was just coming out of COVID, so I didn't want to go back there. And also because I didn't want to risk it because of my dad. He recently had a stroke, and he has a lot of comorbidities like diabetes and hypertension. So I didn't want to risk it for him as well. So that's why I stayed at my friend's place. It was very scary.
It feels like, I mean, of course there's all those physical symptoms that you talk about, but it feels like there was a huge psychological thing
Yeah, you could say.
taking place
Yeah,
with it
it
and
was.
paranoia and everything?
I guess because a lot of people say COVID is okay. It is a serious condition, but people make it seem as if it's so hectic. And I think when it first started off, people were complaining, and there was so much of like rumors going around. And it does affect you if you think it doesn't, but it does affect you hearing all those things. And I think when I got COVID, I didn't expect to get it, but when I did get it, all those things just came back to me, like people dying and this side effects, and there were so many things that was like going through my mind, which is very scary.
I think also the scary thing is with COVID is you don't know how it's going to affect you. You don't know if you're going to get like the light COVID,
Exactly.
or you're going to be one of the people that go
Exactly.
with COVID. So like you're kind of in between, like.
Yes, exactly. So that's what also why I was very paranoid.
No, gosh. Okay, so then you talked about, you were saying day 1, day 5. What was the worst day? Or if there was was there any, what was your worst day? Let me keep pushing this ball.
I think the worst day was finding out I tested positive.
Okay, so that was, after that,
No,
things were not as bad.
so I didn't experience COVID. I had very mild COVID symptoms,
Okay.
which I'm very thankful for. And I didn't have very severe symptoms, like I didn't have a hectic shortness of breath or like diarrhea and like a very bad cough, which I needed, like if I had a bad cough, I needed to be hospitalized or I couldn't breathe. So I'm very thankful that I was, had very mild symptoms. But you could say, like, when I spoke about the vomiting and I couldn't breathe at one part, I guess also it played on my mind that, okay, so your levels are like low and this could happen. I think that also being a nurse, it's knowing what's...
I was about to ask
Yeah.
that, like, do you think that having sort of like the medical knowledge of what is and what isn't would have contributed to like...
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's... I mean, I've heard things about COVID, but having to hear it like...
Yeah.
Sort of like psychological part of it, I think, is what feels so hectic.
I guess a lot of people don't talk about that side.
No.
They don't.
A lot of people don't talk about health in general.
Yeah, true.
Because of its like relation to like death.
Yes,
And then that's
definitely.
like a very scary thing. It's like who
Yes.
wants to talk about like
Yes.
the potential of dying. You overcame COVID. What have been the after effects of COVID?
Okay, so as you know, I still have this cough. And I get very scared, like if I'm going out in public, and I always feel like if I'm going out with my boyfriend, I'd be like, I can't cough because people think I have COVID, and I try to hold it in. And there was this one part I was in the hospital, and I had my mask on, and I don't know what was on the mask, but I think I felt like there was an insect in the mask, and I coughed it, like I swallowed it in, and then but I don't think it was an insect. I think I was like going crazy, but it wasn't. I think it was like the fluff from the mask.
Oh yeah.
And then I coughed, like I swallowed it in, and we went down the wrong pipe, and the bell was ringing for a patient, like the patient wanted some help, and I'm coughing and I'm going there, and I'm like, like I'm okay, and then she's like looking at me like, does this nurse have COVID? I'm like, I'm like in my mind, I don't have COVID, I'm okay. And I get scared because I try not to cough anywhere, but I do have this slight cough now and then. And also, like sometimes at night, I can't sleep like in a certain position. Like I used to sleep on my side when I had COVID. And now I find it very difficult when, like I sleep on my back. So when I sleep on my side, I feel very cramped and like I can't breathe. So like I have certain nights difficulty in sleeping because I feel, what if I sleep and I don't wake up? I know. I can be very paranoid. Yeah, it's just that two things that affected me.
Okay, so that's some physical effects. Now with the paranoia, have you always, prior to COVID, have you always had like a little paranoia thing, or do you think that COVID brought about?
I think I've always been with like certain things, or like with certain things I can be very paranoid about. But I guess that's just me in general.
And then COVID like exasperated.
Yeah.
The situation.
I guess I get scared for a lot of things that are happening, and especially if it's my family, then it's different.
So do you think that's affected the way, outside of the physical aftermath, do you think that's affected the way in which you move or like you do things, having had COVID and still living in a pandemic? Have you noticed like a behavioral change, because That's what the government's asking everyone, like behavioral change. Have you noticed your own behavioral change?
No, I haven't. Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think anything has changed drastically from the time I had COVID.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I'm still the same person. I actually feel stronger now that I came out of knowing that I had COVID and I came out of it. I actually feel a lot stronger.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I've been through that and knowing that there's been so much of deaths and lives taken through this virus. And I'm very thankful to God that I made it through, and especially like my family as well.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
So now with this, like, you have COVID, this arch nemesis of the world. Because I think for the last year, this is like been the biggest thing that we've hated the most. Did it in any way affect the way you perceive yourself, like having the illness?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think it did. I didn't really think, well, to me it was just the virus. I didn't think that it would affect me psychologically, emotionally. So I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did it affect even your perception, like what you perceived of the illness before you had it, and now that you've kind of overcome it? What is your perception of COVID right now?
I guess I have a better understanding of what people go through because it was just what I've seen, and knowing that I've experienced it, I can relate to patients in a better way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a little silver lining.
Yes, because a lot of people, especially in the hospital, they be like, oh no, you don't realize what I'm going through. But it's like when I've also been admitted, I experienced it because I'm on the other hand. So when I had COVID, I could relate to what patients have COVID and how they're feeling. Because when you don't have it, if you don't have something, and you're gonna be like, okay, I understand how you're feeling, but you don't really understand how that person is feeling.
And one question I wanted to ask, which is a technical, so you're with your friends and they had tested positive. What did that mean for isolation? Did you guys could still mingle because I guess you were all positive?
So we all were positive and we didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
So we all tested positive.
So no one had to be like sequestered to a room?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, alright, so there wasn't that like loneliness factor, I suppose.
I had my friends there, so it wasn't me.
Yeah. Okay, alright. So here, for these interviews, we're kind of like personifying illness. So we say if COVID, and I think Twitter actually has names like a lot of names for COVID, like Miss Coco or Miss whatever.
Really? I haven't seen that.
I can't think of them. But people have been like giving names, just like they give names to the pandemic about Panorama or whatever. So we are personifying the illness. And let's say Miss COVID, Miss Coco, Miss Rona, whatever, was to be in front of you. How do you think she would look like?
I think it would look very scary. It would look like green and ugly and I guess angry, you could say.
Angry?
Yeah.
Like, why would you say angry?
Angry in a way where like you're just like poking at people and like you just want to fight with somebody. I guess you could say that.
Yeah, and the colors you would
I would say green and red. I guess green because I spoke about coughing, and when you're coughing out sputum, it's like a greenish color. It could be. And red with regard to high fever, your body tends to get heated up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes with like the red goes with the anger.
Yeah.
And then like I guess the scary goes with the green.
Yeah.
And everything. Okay. Well, is there anything you want the people to know which we don't already know? That you think we don't already know, even though like Cyril and the news and the movies and the series
Exactly.
and
I
keeps
think
telling us.
there's a lot of stuff out there, and people just need to be aware of what's going on and not to take the virus very lightly because it is a deadly disease. And people need to be made aware that, it's going to be around for the next couple of years. So you need to protect yourself and your families.
And what advice would you give because it is a serious illness, like you just said, what advice would you give in terms of how to balance yourself from being absolutely paranoid to sort of accepting and living with the existence of COVID in our society, and potentially if someone was to get COVID, how would you advise them to kind of balance, don't panic, you're not dying, with this is serious, you could die?
Okay, that's a hard one. I guess you have to take every day, one day at a time. And I know it's hard to say not to stress, but don't stress. And you're going to get through this, and you just gotta have faith in God. And you gotta be prayed up and know what's going on. Take your appropriate prescribed medication, and if you need to isolate from your family because your loved ones are around you. And I don't know what else to say.
Thank you for now. We're gonna go to like the makeup, and then we're gonna try and conceptualize what this green, scary, feverish Miss Coco would look like if COVID had a face. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do we say bye? Because I just wasn't
Say bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to see how the makeup was done and the final makeup look, please head over to Sancha Jewel's YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next episode of Sick Faces.